I ran a 125 half marathon at 19 years old, and here's how I did it. Just about 5 months ago, I was running my second ever half marathon in what I could call a weather-wise perfect day. 10 to 12 degrees, cloudy, no rain, no wind, and an incredibly flat course. So I really had no excuse, I had to get that PB. My initial goal was going sub 130, as my previous PB was 134 that I had achieved 3 months prior to this race in my first ever half marathon. This was the first bigger goal I had posed myself, and I really felt motivated because I wanted to push my limits and go all out. I did this with about 7 weeks of specific training and a running background of not even 2 years. I still achieved what others were saying to be a really good time for 19 years old. So I have to be honest, at first I really felt good and proud of myself, like I was kind of, superhero. But I then realized that I was just a bum, and to be competitive, I still had a very long way ahead of me. But that was a good start though. And really, I'm not athletically talented, I am no special guy, but I did put in the work. And this is to say that I really believe that even you can achieve such goals. If an half marathon is in your aim, or even if it's a 5K, or a 10K or whatever, the key in achieving your performance dreams resides in a very few important steps. Let's dive in. My training plan leading up to this race was not constructed in a typical manner, let's say. Usually you will do a base phase of at least 1 month, characterized by higher and easier volume that is needed to build that aerobic fitness that is needed then to go into the build phase, where you start doing race-specific work such as interval training or tempo runs, where you start putting in some intensity. Then to finish up with a 1 or 2 weeks taper, which means lowering the volume and keeping a little bit of intensity to freshen the legs towards race day and make sure that you're not tired up from all your training, because you need to be really fresh on race day. And I'm gonna tell you this because it really is true. For some people, it feels like when you're tapering, you're losing your fitness because you're not training as hard, but I can assure you, your peak has to be at 2 weeks before race day in order for you to perform the best. So this feeling is something all runners, all athletes have felt, but it is really common, and that is the way. For my half marathon, I did not do a base phase because I assumed that all the training I had done in previous months without preparing for any specific race will work as a base already. So at the end of October 2025, I dove straight into race-specific training, a phase that lasted about 5 weeks. New day, same video. Let's get back to it. My typical training week was structured over 2 key sessions, 1 interval training and 1 race pace run. We could call it tempo run, 1 long run in the weekend, and some easy runs mixed with some cross training such as easy spin on the bike trainer or easy swims to lower the impact stress that the runs provided. Let's take a look at each day singularly. Monday, to start off the week and to recover from the past weekend that definitely was quite demanding, I had 50 minutes of zone 2 on the bike train. This is, as I said, to lower the impact stress caused by the running, because especially running on tarmac, it's very stressful for your bones, for your joints. It provides a lot of stress. So easy bike on the bike trainer to recover, let the blood flow in the muscles and all that. Tuesday was a key session day. I had interval training, and I will tell you now, the interval trainings need to be progressive. You cannot start by doing 2K repeats. They need to increase each week, but you need to start from 400 meters repeats, and you can go up to 2K repeats for an half marathon. Then obviously the distance and the time depends on the type of race you're preparing. The intervals could also not be based on distance but on time. 4x3 minutes, 4x4 minutes. I use distance as unit for my repetitions, and I started off with 400 meters. I think my first was 6x400 fast, because obviously you want to build your 400 for speed. And then I switched to probably 800 meters, and then I went on to 1Ks, and then I went on to miles, so 1.6K reps, and I think I finished with some 2000s. This is also another incredible training, as I told you, 3x1 mile plus 400 meter, and the 1 mile was at race pace, while the 400 meter was very fast. That's like straight sprint. I think it was like 320 pace. And here you can see the pace graph and the heart rate graph. You see where it is higher but sustained here, that's the mile, while this like kind of peak right here, that's the 400. And you can definitely tell, because between the mile and the 400, I think it was like very little rest. So for a 400, you were tired and you needed to speed up while your legs were tired. You just finished a mile at race pace. So that was a really key session for my training. Wednesday for easy run in zone 2. So you just go out, run for 30-45 minutes, really easy. You just watch your heart rate and it needs to be low too, like middle zone 2. And that is perfect for recovery and just to stack up kilometers and volume. Thursday was tempo running day, race pace run day we could call. This type of run needs to be increased week by week. Started off by doing basically I think 3K or 4K at race pace, so it was about 4:10 at first. One thing I need to mention is that basically my training was done at a little bit higher than my race pace that I actually did in my half marathon, because my goal was to run some 1:30. I then ran 1:25, so it was like 5 minutes lower, because I was probably fit on that day. I felt really good, so the stars fell on me. You need to really like set your race pace and work on that. So if you want to be ambitious, do a fast race pace and train on that race pace. Used to training at that speed, because you need to be running at that speed in order to have problems in the race itself, okay? Also, the tempo running, I increased week by week, started off by 3Ks, and I think my last key session was 10K race pace with a total volume of 15K, including warm-up and cool down. It was hard, I remember. Friday was rest day, but I usually went on a swim in like late evening, about 8:30 p.m. because the pool was empty and I felt it really calming. It was kind of dynamic meditation. Also, like, swimming is good for you. It is really good to put you in horizontal position for the blood flow and all of that. So I suggest like to do at least one swim per week just to recover from the run stress. Saturday was usually my long run day. Started from 14K long run, which is definitely not long, but for the half marathon preparation, that is considered a long run. I went up like 10 was the first, then 15, 16, and then the last long run was 20K. You don't really need to be running more than 21 kilometers. Like, you can go up to 20K, you don't need to run 24K. 20 is a good distance for your longest long run. For example, I ran my 20K long run progressive way. So we started off easy, zone 2, then we went into zone 3, and then we ended up in a race pace, but even faster. Like last K I think was sub 4. So that was a really tough workout actually. Luckily I had Giuseppe, my training partner, that pushed me hard. It was a tough day. And that is also why you really need to have someone to train with, someone that shares your sacrifice and your fatigue, because it really gives you a push, gives you more motivation that you wouldn't have if you were alone. Really, training with someone else is incredibly helpful. So I suggest you to find yourself in an environment of people who want to push their limits, they want to train with you. After that Saturday long run, Sunday was usually also a light activity recovery day. I usually went for a walk. It could be like easy runs, just put in some light activity. I don't know, some Pilates, you can swim again, whatever you want. Let the blood flow in the body. The more you move, the faster you recover. Obviously, you need to move at a very easy intensity. In the middle of my preparation, I also used a local 14K hilly race used as threshold running, so to test your fitness. It's nice to put some race in the middle of a preparation for a bigger race to test your condition. Get some motivation also if you have a good performance. This is what happened to me. I had this local 14K hilly race. I ran at a pace of 4:06. I was able to stay under the hour. I felt really good. It really pushed me and motivated me to even harder rest of the training for the half marathon. Now we start talking about some data. We live in a period right now where data is talked about a lot. Here, VO2 max there, and all of this incredible data. Like, as technology advances, so data is more talked about. If you just want to prepare a race, you don't really want to worry about like all of these numbers. There's two important like metric factors that you need to follow in order to have a good training plan, and those are the ones I follow. It's not really hard, it's really simple actually. First one is obviously heart rate. You need to get a heart rate monitor. Band would be great, because the heart rate monitor of the watch is not really precise. Definitely it's better now, but you can't really rely on it too much. You need to calculate your heart rate zones. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. If you do not know what heart rate zones are, basically you know your max heart rate. I don't know, mine is about 206 BPM. You calculate your zones based on the percentage of your max heart rate. Like 50 to 60 zone 1, 60 to 70 zone 2, 70 to 80 zone 3, etc., all the way up to 100%, which is zone 5. It is fundamental because if you do not know your heart rate zones, it's kind of complicated, for example, to do your runs or your threshold runs. Really precise for your threshold runs, you would use lactate measurement like the Norwegians do, but that is just like not something common people can do, so you need to rely on your heart rate zone. To know your max heart rate, you should need a test, the 3 minutes test, or just test yourself in a all-out 5K, or even do FTP test on the bike if you have the possibility. These tests will most likely give you your max heart rate because you will reach it in that test. So you know your zones is very simple because each training you know basically what kind of zone you have to fall in. Take a look at your watch, you monitor it and you see if you're out of those zones, and if so you like rebalance. It's very important, especially for the easier runs. It's fundamental not to overdo the easy runs. Keep the easy runs really easy, like almost all athletes now not in low intensity. Second data metric that you need to rely on obviously is pace. We are running, so pace is fundamental, like speed is in cycling, in running is everything. So combined with heart rate. If everything was good, heart rate zones would match with your running pace zones, because in the heart rate zones you have your easy, your tempo, which is zone 3, you have your threshold, which is zone 4, and then you have your VO2 max, that would be zone 5. So to test your run zones, you will need to do another running test of those, like the 3 minutes test or the 6 minutes test. There are a lot of those. You can do your research on the internet, find the ones that attract you the most and do it, because otherwise you cannot build a training schedule for yourself. So you have all that figured out, and you can start training. Obviously, your interval trainings should be done at an intensity that is above zone 4, so into your VO2 max zone. Interval trainings are VO2 max workouts. They train your speed. You're running for interval distances, higher pace, building lactate, and you're teaching your body to reuse that lactate to create energy for your muscles, to recycle that lactate back into glucose. While your tempo runs should be done at about that zone 3 layer, you know. So my tempo running in that case was about 410, 405 sometimes, 415 sometimes, depending also on how I felt that day. My VO2 max pace could be like 345. I was running fast. I was running 345, 350. Too fast obviously, but we're talking about repetition of 1K up to 1 mile. But heart rate and run is two fundamental data metrics. You need to roll out, set on the table, do your tests, the numbers written down so that you can follow those. Really, after you have them, you can just put them inside ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever you want. You know, create training plan for half marathon. It will tell you the exact same things. And you know why? Because my plan was also done by an AI. So I have to be honest, like structure itself, not make myself. I do study a lot what athletes do. I ask Gemini to create a training plan for me. I utilized both the knowledge that I gained from, you know, watching all of these YouTube videos from these creators and watching races and listening to podcasts. Also like reading books about running. I came to the conclusion that this really worked for me, and I feel like it could really work for you, because obviously everyone is different, but come to common places somewhere, so common points that anybody could use. Start talking about such individualization, you get to the highest levels, like where Christian Blumenfeld, the Norwegians, whatever level right there. It would be incredible to be other level, but you know, there is a lot of work to do. Hey guys, but I'm recording this video on different days because obviously I don't have all this time to record all the clips at the same moment. Recapping the chapter about data. Data metrics you really need to use are rate and running pace. And you need to test your zones out, identify all your percentages, and structure your training based on that. You watch that data when you're training, when you're actually running, okay? These two metrics are just the most useful ones. If you're a beginner and you just, you know, have a sports watch like a Garmin or an Apple Watch, do record these measurements, so that's the important thing, and follow those. Now we dive straight into the last chapter of this video, which is the reality chapter. I have to mention this one. So obviously I'm not a professional athlete, and you who's watching this video probably also isn't, and I know that's very sad, but that's the reality of it. So we're normal people, need to spend a lot of our time in external factors, university, studying for exams, working, or social relationships, having a partner, spending time with your family, especially with your grandparents, which I think is very important. When you're out until late and the next morning you have to wake up for, I know, a long run or a big training sessions. Things happened a lot to me, and you know, like looking back now, I'm really happy they happened, because there were some good times, man. Definitely Personally, I would say that you need to make sacrifices. Sacrifices are part of the game. Obviously, that depends on the type of race you're preparing for. The longer the race, the higher the volume will be in training, so the more time you will spend training, the more sacrifices you will have to make. In half marathon, you don't really need to make all those sacrifices. Not like training for an Ironman, of course. There still are some things you need to keep in mind, especially if you're training for a race in the winter, and that I will explain you why. So these are some things I had to do in my preparation, so kind of sacrifice, I will say. First of all, I had to run mid-lectures because when I was in Bologna and towards the middle of the semester, we were packed of classes. The only time I could run really was in between lectures, usually in lunch break. So what I will do is, like, one lecture will finish at 12, I don't know, and then I will go to the cafeteria with some of my classmates. I'll leave them my bag and I will change in the bathroom and just go for an easy run, about 6-7 Ks. Get some volume in, some easy run in, and back, get changed and go to another class. Eating very fast my lunch, which obviously people would not want to do that, but some things you need to take in account for. You're older than me and you're working and you do have a lunch break, you're forced to train in that lunch break because otherwise you have to work from 8 and 5 you need to go home to your family. You need to house chores, so there is a lot to it. Another thing I had to do as being a student, and especially it was a race in December, I had 2 exams to prepare. Preparing for those exams while training exactly for my race. One was a genetics exam, was very interesting, and I mean I didn't find it difficult to study for that. Also I had a linear algebra midterm, and it was not too tough and it was a midterm, so I was able to manage that. Obviously I was still giving the priority to the study time for my exams, but without never sacrificing the training. So because the training actually helped me get through the studying easily, because it was calming my mind, it was emptying my thoughts, and that is really helpful. That is what I found most helpful in training. To be honest, I didn't really miss out on any social events. I will still make sure I will go to like the hangouts with friends because I will want to see them, not want to be like isolated from my friends. Not out until too late, that's the thing I will say. It was winter, so it's not like I was staying out until 6 a.m. Maybe in the summer you do. It was easier for this matter. Definitely since it was winter, I was training in winter time. It was cold as hell here in Imola, Pianura Padana. It's very humid, the cold gets in your bones and it can be really tough at times, especially sometimes I had to train in the evening and it gets dark at 5, so you know, when you're training at 6:37, really dark. It's really cold, it's really humid. It kind of sucks, you need to get through it. Times it was kind of tough, but really I just kept into my mind, just really kept the motivation going because I kept thinking about the finish line at the half marathon, at the goal I was aiming for, and how happy I would be at the end of all of it. So that was it. So it really helps you to get through the training when you're alone, when nobody's watching, you know, that's what you hear all over the internet. It's actually true, so follow that, reminding yourself what the goal is, and that will definitely help. Okay guys, so to quickly recap, running a 125 half required a solid structure, most of base building and some speed work, and being committed to the data and follow the right heart rate and running pace zones, train following those, and finally obviously balancing it all out with the reality, so prioritizing rest, sleep, and sometimes making some sacrifice. I really do believe that the capacity of running a very good time that you're aiming for is already you. You just need to go out there and follow that plan, be consistent, and just never stop dreaming, because dreams are what like fuel us and make us move forward, and we always need to move forward, obviously. So man, if you're watching this video and you have a running or a triathlon goal in mind, just it is possible. Construct your training plan right here, right now, after you're done watching this video, and start working, because it will come to you, and that's the best feeling that you can have. Guys, if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe down below. If you want some more endurance content, I love bringing more content about my future races in here, about my future training plans. Right now I'm kind of on a hold. We'll update you guys, getting motivated about this YouTube channel. So let's keep going, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.